Hi, my name is Paul-Beckett, and today I'm going to be talking about the ego, more specifically in a spiritual context. A year ago, I had this completely spontaneous Kundalini awakening, and that led to me realizing my true nature a couple of weeks later. And I'm sure you know what that is, but if you don't, my true nature is the same as your true nature. We are all just perfect aspects of the universe, perfect aspects of the one infinite creator, whatever you want to call that. So there's a lot of things online about the ego: battle your ego, destroy your ego, how to escape the ego. And I can totally understand why that exists. I can totally understand the issues that people feel like they've got with their egos, and the situations that you get into because of the ego. But I feel like I've got a slightly different perspective on it. Since going through my self-realization, my perspective has completely changed. And it's so strange to say, because it's not like I've been reading lots of books, or I've had to like kind of research or learn this information. It's just a knowing. And that, especially in this day and age, people want facts and figures. And how do you know this? How do you know this is true? I just know. I just know how I feel. Listen, if that resonates with you, brilliant. That's why I'm making this video. If it doesn't, then I'm sure there's going to be a video that does. So I just wanted to kind of wade in on this and bring my perspective. The ego, I prefer to think of just as a character. And it's a character that we played in this lifetime. And it was built up gradually. We were told things by our parents, we were told things by school, we assumed some things for ourselves. So we had this basically like an energetic mask that we were wearing, that was made up out of all of these thoughts, these beliefs, these assumptions, all this, and we wear it. So my character, Paul Beckett, he was creative. He hated this. He loved that. His experiences seemed to change him and add things to him. And so I started putting together this really, really multi-layered character. And the best way I can describe the way I see it is, it felt like I was wearing a really multi-layered mask made of energy. Okay, so when I self-realized, all of a sudden, that mask, it just disappeared. It was like I forgot that I was ever wearing it. And once I realized that I felt differently like that, I felt like, gosh, I could have took that off at any time. I was holding that to myself. That was my own beliefs. I was energizing those thoughts were nothing without me believing in them and making them real. And all of a sudden, I felt so free. I felt only had to just realize, hang on a minute, this isn't real. What we're seeing around us, we are God. We are the creator. We are all perfect aspects of this one infinite being experiencing itself through relation. And it's just having relationships with itself, because there's nothing else. Nothing else exists in the entire of existence. The universe, whatever, however other many layers of existence there are above us, nothing else exists but us. So all of a sudden I felt like, wow, am I just realizing like kind of the point to life, death and everything, I was like, I'm here to meet myself. I'm here to know myself through another self, like being in one of those fairgrounds with like thousands of mirrors, and there's like a reflection of a reflection, and everything, but everything is just the one thing. But all energy is intelligent. So as it fractals out and as it apparently splits out, it becomes self-aware. It thinks, what am I? Okay, I'll take this. Because we've forgotten. In this level of reality, we've forgotten what we are, and the game is to try and remember it, I think. So through relationship and through kind of self-inquiry, we're like, what are we? So the human condition is, what am I really? Because I think we all know that we're a bit of a fraud, that the characters that we've put together, no matter how nice they are, no matter how difficult they are, because let's face it, you meet some people and they're really hard to be around, because the character which they've put together is difficult. It might be obnoxious, it might be aggressive, but that's not them. that's not them at all. Like, they are perfect. They're perfect the way I'm perfect and the way that you're perfect. But these characters, these funny little characters that we're holding on to for dear life, by the way, are are just that. It's just like a mask we're wearing. So with this perspective, I'm thinking, is this a battle? Is this about me overcoming something? Is this about me suppressing something? Because I really don't think it is. I think as soon as we put our energy into that kind of fight mode or that battle mode, or especially suppressing something, I think we energize it. Okay, all energy is intelligent because it's created by us, and we are the ultimate source of intelligent energy. Okay, so I can have a thought without me powering that thought. That thought can't exist anymore, but that thought wants to exist because it's intelligent energy. So in that way, I understand how it's hard to let go of these beliefs, because these beliefs want to be believed in. And that's a crazy part. You're like, well, it's just a thought. Yeah, but a thought from something as supremely creative as we are is really intelligent, and it wants to live. It wants to carry on at the trajectory that it's on. So if we keep on investing our attention in it, our energy in it, we put beliefs in it, we're like feeding it steroids. This thought's getting stronger and stronger and stronger, and believing in itself more and more and more, which is how these things get really sticky. And the way I've described it, like a mask, like an energetic mask, it wants to be worn, it wants to be energized, it wants to play out the role that we've given it and that it's believed for itself. Do you know what I mean? So this energy is like, these thoughts are sticky. So even now, do I know myself as my true nature? Yes, I do. Do I doubt it? No, I don't. But can I find myself in situations with a Paul character is all of a sudden like right back on me, and I'm reacting from that? Yeah, I can. And I don't know, I can only speak from my point of view, my perspective. I don't know, we've got Eckhart Tolle, we've got Muji, they all seem so calm, so peaceful all the time, and beautiful, beautiful to watch, gorgeous to listen to. I don't know whether they still have this, whether they've surpassed this, but I can still find myself in a situation where all of a sudden I start playing Paul again. What I feel really grateful for is it's kind of like I've got more space in my mind. It's more spacious. Before, I believed that I was my thoughts. Before, I believed I was so close, my thoughts were surrounding me so much that I thought I was them, but I'm not them. The thoughts that are offered to me are general human thoughts that I can subscribe to or not. And that's what I never understood before. So now I feel like I have this space, this kind of mental space. Whereas when these thoughts offer themselves to me, when the invitation to become Paul, wear the mask of Paul again comes up, I'm not so close to it that I put it on without realizing. I've got a little bit of space where I can be like, hang on a minute, I see what's happening here. And the way sometimes I find it easier to describe it is, could you imagine watching a TV with advertisements on? I can sit there watching the adverts, but it doesn't mean to say I'm going to go and buy everything that those adverts are trying to sell me. I'm not going to pick up the phone and try to order everything. So it's kind of like that with my thoughts now. I can see the thoughts coming through and I can be like, okay, see what you are. I don't need to jump on the bandwagon of them. I don't need to energize them. I don't need to give them my full attention. So they start growing and growing. I'm becoming really, really strong. And then I start believing that I am that thought. So that's how I've been dealing with what I like to call invitations to be that character Paul again. If it's happened, don't get me wrong, it's happened. I'm not perfect. I'm not perfect at all. I've been triggered. It's all of this, despite the fact that I've gone through this and I know what I know. Still, situations will come up where I'll find myself reacting as Paul, but I catch myself while I'm doing it, and it doesn't last very long. And it feels awful when I'm doing it, because I'm not responding from love. I'm not responding from just a place of peace or a place of compassion, which I know myself to be. So as soon as I'm getting narky or I'm getting manipulative, or I'm getting things, I feel so grateful that I can catch it. I can realise, hang on a minute, that's not me. That's not me. I'm playing that character again. Because even before self-realisation or anything like this, when I was being kind, when I was being compassionate, when I was being creative, when I was being fun-loving, when I was being joyful, I was always being myself. But when I was being, bitchy, manipulative, um, angry, jealous, all of proud, all of these things, which we all do. We all do, because I think that's the human game, to get to play all of those things, to realize that you're not those things. But when I'm doing that now, it feels so alien. And sometimes I mightn't be clear enough in my mind to realize that I'm doing it, and I'll just think, God, something feels horrible, something feels wrong. Um, and then I realize I'm reacting to something not as myself. I'm not coming from the place that I know myself to be. And so I can choose not to. I can apologise for what I've done straight away. Sorry I snapped then. Sorry, I've just got really agitated for no reason. Sorry about that. And I can go back to that place of peace, and I can listen. And even if someone's being, aggressive towards me, or difficult, because we all come across that. I still come across that. But I can look at that person and I can think, you're just acting out your character here, and you are not your character. You are perfect behind this. Behind this character, no matter how difficult the character that you're choosing to play is, you're perfect. So it's almost like reacting with compassion when somebody is difficult to be around. And that's not to say you need to put yourself through it. That's not to say that you need to put up with whatever they're saying. That's not to say that you need to put yourself in a situation where you are feeling in any way, not perfect. You don't. You can say, yeah, give yourself some space, whatever. But I can look at that person and think, God, you got a much more difficult character than I got. Because mine was quite easy. Don't get me wrong, Paul made every mistake. Every mistake, addiction, manipulation, all of this, deceitful, all of it. He made all the mistakes. But he was a nice person to have around, most people thought. Good sense of humour, fun, blah, blah, blah. So I actually feel like I got to play quite an easy character. Despite that, I'm really glad that I'm not playing them anymore. But some people get really tough ones, and it's, it can be obviously your socio-economic background, what was going on with your parents, what did they throw onto you, what did they project onto you, what have you experienced and believed defines you, do you know what I mean? Because people have really hard times of it. People have really, really hard times of it. And I don't want to take away or negate somebody else's experience, because I was really, really lucky with Paul's experience that it wasn't, so traumatic. The usual level of trauma that we all have. So I suppose what I'm trying to get across here is realize what you are to see what you aren't. Realize that you are peace. You are joy. You are happiness. Okay, you are love, compassion. God, love is the easiest way to sum up. You are love. I am love. And when you're not coming from that place, it means that you've somehow detached from what you are. You're playing that character. You're wearing that energetic mask. So practice. Practice when you're in the middle of like an argument or something, thinking, is this worth it? I know you've annoyed me, and I know, but do I have to be right here? Do I have to argue this to the bitter end? Or can I just say, it's a difference of opinion, blah, blah, and can I walk away from it? Can I give myself that mental space that allows me then to think, God, that feels better doing that. That feels much, much nicer going, actually, I don't need to empower this situation anymore. I don't need to energize it with all of my energy, because your energy is everything. Everything we see around us is your energy, my energy, how our energies are in relationship. So this thing of repressing or battling the ego, I don't think it's a case of that. I think it's a case of being kind with yourself and realizing, I put this character together, I was given this character, and in a lot of ways this character's protected you, it's helped you navigate the world, and it seemed really essential. It's the funny thing about it, because we're all playing characters. You to have this character seems really, really essential. We even compliment people by saying, God, they've got bags of personality, don't we? Like, meaning, like, they've got a really strong character, a real gregarious character, but That just means they've got more layers of it, or maybe just one that you like more. But it's upside down the way we think about it, because see, when you drop that character and the expectations of yourself and all of this, it's life becomes so much easier. And I know that it's easier said than done, okay? But could you try and be aware? Could you try and be aware of what the triggers are? Try and be aware of, who do you think you are then? What have you clung to and said, this is me? And how do those beliefs play out when you're in relationship with other people, or when you're thinking to yourself? Are they limiting you, or are they empowering you? Because if they're limiting you, then you're coming from a place that is not you. You are total empowerment. So short one today, because we've got busy lives. But think about that. Maybe reframe the way you think about this. Battle the ego, destroy the ego, suppress, repress the ego, all of these things, because like a beach ball, this buoyant energy which you spent so long building up, if you push it down and push it down into the sea, it's going to come popping back up again with 1,000 times the force. So the trick here is nothing's a battle. Remember, what's real is you. That's undisputed. What's unreal doesn't exist. So this character doesn't really exist unless you really, really invest your energy and your power into it. You justify its existence. So try and observe your reactions, especially when you're reacting from a negative place, or a place that doesn't feel good. Okay, try and observe them, and then ask yourself, is what I truly am, does it need to be defensive? Does it need to attack? Does it need to manipulate? Because we don't. The life situation might feel like it calls for all of those things, but it never does. There's always another way. There's always an opportunity to react through love, or to react through compassion. Tell the truth instead of telling that lie that you think is going to be a little bit more acceptable to the other person. That was something that Paul did. Me, the character, all the time. I would give a version of the truth, thinking that I was being kind to the person that I was giving that version of the truth to. Tell the truth. And if someone gets upset by you, we're all adults. We can cope with being disappointed. We can cope with thinking, well, that's not how I expected it to turn out. Things. It's our job to be there with each other and to be truthful with each other. It's not our job to worry about how each other are going to handle the information that they receive, just to be there to support if they need it. But we're responsible for ourselves. We make sure our side of the street is clean. You can't change another person, but you can instigate a change in them by modeling that change yourself. When you be from the place that you know you truly are, it's contagious. Other people feel like they can let their guards down as well. We're all holding up this mad mask as a protection and as an armor. And when you let yours down, it makes it okay for another person to let theirs down. And that's without words. They sense it. They sense that you're being open. They sense that you're being vulnerable. They sense that you're being honest. So try, have a little go. Note your responses, and try, when that response comes up again, or that reaction comes up again, to give yourself that little bit of mental space to think, there's that thing. And you'll make mistakes. That's okay. Keep trying to do that. Okay, I love yous. See you later.